What if the king of all creation was treated like a joke by those who didn't recognize him? What if the moment meant to humiliate him actually revealed a truth greater than anything they understood? And what if the deepest form of strength looked like silence in the face of cruelty? After Pilate handed Jesus over, the scene shifted quickly. The decision had been made. The crowd had spoken. The sentence was set. Now it was in the hands of the soldiers. They led Jesus away into the palace courtyard, the praetorium. This was their space, their territory, a place where power was displayed, not questioned. And there, surrounded by Roman authority, something began to unfold that went far beyond punishment. They called together the whole company of soldiers, not just a few, but many, a gathering, an audience. Because what was about to happen was not just discipline, it was performance. They stripped him. The one who carried dignity beyond measure was exposed, reduced, humiliated. Then they put a purple robe on him, purple the color of royalty. But this was not honor, this was mockery, a twisted imitation of a king. They twisted together a crown of thorns, sharp, rough, painful, and pressed it onto his head, a crown but not of gold, not of jewels, of thorns, piercing, cutting, drawing blood. And still, he said nothing. Then they began to salute him. "Hail, King of the Jews!" Their voices filled the courtyard, laughter, sarcasm, mockery. They struck his head with a staff, again and again, driving the thorns deeper. They spit on him, the ultimate sign of disrespect, of rejection, of dehumanization. And then they fell on their knees in mock worship, pretending, imitating something sacred, without understanding it. This wasn't just cruelty, it was distortion, taking what was true and turning it into something false, taking what was holy and treating it as a joke. But here's the reality they didn't see. Every action they took, every symbol they mocked, every word they twisted, was pointing to a truth they couldn't escape. He was a king, not the kind they understood, not the kind they served, but a king nonetheless. The robe, the crown, the bowing, even in mockery it reflected reality. Because truth doesn't disappear when it's denied, it remains, even when misunderstood, even when rejected. Jesus stood there, bleeding, bruised, surrounded by violence and laughter, and still, he remained silent. Why? Why not speak? Why not stop it? Why not show them who he really was? Because this moment was not about proving power, it was about revealing purpose. Because real authority doesn't need to defend itself in every moment. Real strength doesn't react to every insult. Sometimes the greatest power is restraint. The ability to endure without becoming what surrounds you. The ability to stay grounded when everything tries to shake you. Jesus didn't respond with anger. He didn't call down judgment. He didn't fight back. Not because he couldn't, but because he chose not to. And that choice changes everything, because it shows us a different kind of strength. Not the strength to overpower, but the strength to endure, to remain, to stay true, even when everything around you is false. Think about that. Most people react when they're insulted, defend themselves, push back, try to restore their image. But Jesus didn't, because his identity wasn't defined by their actions. It wasn't shaped by their words. It wasn't threatened by their misunderstanding. He knew who he was, and that was enough. There's something deeply challenging about that, because we live in a world that constantly pushes us to respond, to prove, to defend, to correct, to make sure we're seen the right way. But what if strength isn't always found in response? What if sometimes it's found in stillness, in knowing your identity so deeply that you don't need to fight for it? The soldiers didn't understand what they were doing. To them, this was entertainment, a break from routine, a chance to assert power over someone vulnerable. But in reality, they were stepping into something far greater than they realized. They thought they were mocking a powerless man, but they were standing in front of the one who held everything together. The contrast is overwhelming. Power meeting submission, authority meeting surrender, violence meeting peace, and peace not breaking, not fading, not responding with the same energy. That's what makes this moment so powerful, because it reveals something we often miss. That true strength is not about what you can do, it's about what you choose not to do. It's about restraint, purpose, clarity, and Jesus had all of that. Even in pain, even in humiliation, even in silence. After they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe, they put his own clothes back on him, and then they led him out to be crucified. The mockery was over, the performance ended. but the impact remained. Because what happened in that courtyard was not just a moment of cruelty, it was a revelation, a moment where the world showed its brokenness and Jesus revealed his purpose. Because he didn't just endure that moment, he carried it forward to the cross, to the sacrifice, to the redemption that would follow. And that's where this connects to us. Because we all face moments where we are misunderstood, mocked, disrespected, treated unfairly. Moments where it feels like we need to defend ourselves, to prove something, to respond. But what if we learned from this moment? What if we realized that not every attack requires a reaction? That not every insult deserves a response? That sometimes silence is not weakness, but strength under control? This doesn't mean we accept injustice or ignore truth, but it means we choose how we respond, with intention, with clarity, with purpose. Jesus didn't lose control in that courtyard. He held it completely. And because he did, he stayed on the path that would lead to something far greater than that moment. Because the story doesn't end with mockery, it moves forward through suffering, through sacrifice, to something that would change everything. The soldiers saw a man to mock, but God saw a mission being fulfilled. And that's the difference. Perspective. Because what looks like defeat can actually be purpose in motion. What looks like weakness can actually be strength in its purest form. What looks like silence can actually be the loudest statement of all. Jesus didn't need to prove anything in that moment, because the truth would be revealed, not through words, but through what came next. And that's what gives this moment meaning. Not the cruelty, not the mockery, but the response, the choice, the purpose behind it. So when you face moments where you feel misunderstood or disrespected or pushed down, remember this. You don't have to react to everything. You don't have to prove your worth to everyone. You don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes, the greatest strength is staying true to who you are, even when no one else sees it. Because truth doesn't need to be defended in every moment. It stands, and in time, it speaks for itself. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to your heart, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today.